Outside the once bustling Starbucks roastery on Capitol Hill, there are more birds than baristas.
Former Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz called out Seattle Mayor Katie Wilson in an opinion piece he wrote for the Wall Street Journal.
Katie Wilson has chosen to cast business as a foil rather than a partner.
Good afternoon, beautiful people, and happy Thursday. You know, at some point, politicians have to stop pretending that businesses, taxpayers, and jobs are just these disposable things that magically replace themselves. Because what is happening in Seattle right now is starting to look less like progressive leadership and more like a slow motion economic self-destruction. And the craziest part is the warning signs are everywhere, but Socialist Mayor Katie Wilson is choosing to ignore them. Welcome to Nellie Miranda.
To join them on their picket line and proud to say loud and clear, I am not buying Starbucks and you should not either.
As always, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. Okay, so businesses are considering leaving Washington state in massive numbers. Employers are openly talking about relocating. Major companies are being courted by other states, states that welcome entrepreneurship and aren't hell-bent on eating the rich. But instead of calming fears or reassuring investors, Seattle's socialist mayor, Katie Wilson, is out here basically saying, if rich people leave, bye.
And if, the ones that leave, bye.
And now, the state's largest business association just called Washington's economy a 5-alarm fire. Not a slowdown or concern, but a 5-alarm fire, and somehow the mayor still cannot answer basic questions from reporters. I don't know why this adult child was voted into office to begin with. Sometimes we might think, I am not qualified for this job. I don't have the credentials to pursue this role. Go for it anyway. If you're telling me a grown woman who receives an allowance from her parents, whose hands have been held her entire life, can lead a city like Seattle, well, apply for that job. Go for that role. You just have to be a little delusional sometimes, I promise you. That's all you need.
Schultz criticized the city's relationship with corporations, saying Mayor Wilson, quote, has chosen to cast business as a foil rather than a partner. Her socialist rhetoric vilifies employers, even while she continues to rely on them for revenue. The 73-year-old billionaire recently moved to Florida, saying he's in the retirement phase of his life, confirming Washington's policies are not the only reason why he left the state. This as Starbucks chose Tennessee as its new headquarters and laid off 61 corporate workers right here in Seattle yesterday.
But let's switch gears briefly so I can tell you about Chapter. If you are 65 and on Medicare, come close. You might just be on a Medicare plan that is not best suitable for your needs. There are so many different plans, coverage, and cost, and I'm sure you guys try to do your research, but the government websites are so confusing. For only 20 minutes of your day, Chapter will walk you through all of your options, compare different plans and insurance companies, and make sure that you are getting the best plan for your needs. The call is completely free. There's no pressure to sign up. And historically, people who review their plans with Chapter save about $1,100 per year on average, which can add up to tens of thousands of dollars over time. Imagine what you can do with that kind of money. So you have nothing to lose, but everything to gain. You owe it to yourself to double check. So again, if you are on Medicare and you want to review all of your options, please call my trusted partner Chapter at 646-817-8160. That is 646-817-8160, or go to askchapter.org/Nellie. Now back to the story. So this story actually reminds me of a bigger national pattern that we are seeing right now. Whether it's Seattle, Chicago, New York City, or parts of California, there's this growing hostility towards the very businesses and taxpayers that fund these cities. You want their money, but you also want them to have no money. Make it make sense. You can only villainize employers for so long before they start saying, okay, well, we'll go somewhere else. Somewhere where the math actually makes sense.
I think the claims that millionaires are going to leave our state are super overblown. And if, the ones that leave, bye. And I could not be prouder to stand here with Starbucks baristas in solidarity today.
I'm asking everyone who believes in fairness, dignity, and workers' rights to stand with us on this picket line. While baristas are on strike, the baristas have shared that the best way to show our support is not to buy Starbucks in solidarity.
Okay, welcome back. That was Seattle's socialist mayor. First, you heard Katie Wilson dismissing the upper brackets, which creates millions of jobs. Then you heard her picketing against Starbucks, but former Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz now calling out Katie Wilson in a new Wall Street Journal op-ed for, quote, demonizing and vilifying and chasing away honest, hardworking American businesses. That Seattle faces serious problems, including a massive $250 million budget deficit.
So recently, the Association of Washington Business released a survey of more than 400 employers across the state. And the numbers are brutal. 1 in 4 businesses are actively considering leaving Washington. They are not joking. They're actively considering relocating operations elsewhere. And if that wasn't alarming enough, only 9% of businesses that were surveyed said that they plan to expand inside Washington state. And yet, those numbers do not terrify Socialist Mayor Katie Wilson at all, which is strange because socialism requires a lot of other people's money for the free that they want to provide. So if businesses stop expanding and hiring slows down, which means tax revenue will slow down, and so they'll be left with no choice than to either cut services or raise taxes even more. But if the wealthy leave, who will pay the bulk of the taxes? You got it. Everyday Americans that they swear that they are fighting for.
It's a major blow for the woke Seattle mayor as the Starbucks founder blasts her for speeding up the decline of the city where he founded Starbucks. He's now moving headquarters staff to Tennessee. Boeing, Fisher Investment, Amazon moving out. Google is moving out offices too. What do you think?
And he's moving to Miami. And so you have, this week it's Howard Schultz. Last week it was Ken Griffin that was calling out Mamdani appropriately. What these mayors don't want to see or don't care about, because they want to be populist and they want to try to ingratiate themselves with the people who are having the hardest time in their communities, is that the wealthiest people are the most mobile. They can leave right away. They also pay the most percentage of taxes, and that's a huge deficit. As you said, creates a huge hole when they leave, which can only be filled with more taxes. And so what happens is it creates what I call a death spiral. And then you have to tax the people who you are supposedly trying to help. So what ends up happening, and this is not just something that happens in cities, this is something that happens in communist countries and in socialist countries, that they completely fall apart over time because the wealthy people can leave, they do leave, they don't want to be pariahs in their own community. And if they're told to leave by their mayor, guess what they're doing? They're going to leave.
So Mayor Wilson publicly brushed off concerns about wealthy taxpayers and business owners leaving. She basically said, if millionaires leave, bye. And then she did that stupid little giggle. And look, I understand a lot of people hear millionaire and automatically think evil, billionaire, cartoon villain sitting on a yacht somewhere. And I am by no means saying that money won't make people do evil things, because it does. But you have to take a moment to think about how these businesses are deeply tied into local communities. They sponsor Little League teams. They donate locally. They employ thousands of people, and they fund the city tax bases. And the president of the Association of Washington Business actually made this point when responding to Wilson's comments. He said businesses are part of the fabric of communities and they create pathways for young people. Take a listen.
So when a mayor of the biggest city in the state makes a glib comment a couple of weeks ago that just got attention last week saying bye to millionaires, how does that play in the AWB?
I think it's concerning anytime we have elected officials wanting to say goodbye to the job base, goodbye to the tax base of their economy. I think we should be saying, thank you. You're wanted here. You create great jobs. You create pathways for young people. You make investments in your local community. You're part of the fabric of your local regions that you call home. You sponsor Little League teams. You are so ingrained in local communities. And so I say on behalf of the employer committee of our state, thank you. You're wanted. We want every company that can be here to be in Washington state. And I hope our policymakers at all levels, state, local, and federal, join us in that movement of saying, thank you, please stay here, and what can we do to help?
That's the reality of it all. And after facing some heat, Socialist Mayor Katie Wilson said she would like to work with Starbucks because there is room to find common ground.
Wilson also took the high road, saying she wants Starbucks to continue succeeding with shared priorities of addressing homelessness, public safety, and affordability, and that there is plenty of room for all of us to find common ground.
I think there's some valid points from Mr. Schultz.
Seattle Councilmember Rob Saka struck a different note.
I think policymakers in Seattle and elsewhere should avoid diminishing and trivializing the perspectives of others, including those in the business community.
But here's where the story gets even worse for Katie Wilson, because while all of this economic anxiety is growing, there's another issue building around transparency and media access, or the lack of it, quite frankly. Multiple reporters have now accused Wilson's office of dodging interviews and avoiding difficult questions.
Does that change it? Does that change your perspective at all?
Let's keep it on. Yeah, let's keep it on the topic of this event. Thanks.
But does that change your perspective at all on the issue of surveillance cameras based on what you went through on Tuesday?
Yeah.
Appreciate it, but let's keep it on topic, okay?
She's about to answer the question, though. Okay. I mean, it looks worse when you jump in like that.
I'm sorry, I specifically said to keep it on topic.
That's funny because Katie Wilson campaigned as the transparent outsider, the reform candidate, the anti-establishment candidate. But 4 months into office, she appears allergic to scrutiny. The issue with that is the reporters don't disappear, the questions will not disappear, and neither will the city's economic concerns. But let me know what you think in the comments, and if you got value from today's video, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe to support the channel, and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Oh wait, and here's a bonus clip just for funsies of how the homeless in Seattle are using the Lime bikes. Bye.
Man, is that your van?
Yeah.
Oh, you're picking up these Lime bikes?
Yeah.
But the Lime bike is being used on this tent. Oh my gosh. Oh my God, this is a first. The guy who's picking up Lime bikes found one in this encampment, and now you got to take it back.